So Karen, can you tell us the type of typical questions that you're asked during the interview?
Mostly would be two directions. One of them is about the job itself, and then one of them is about you. So about the job itself, it's always about why are you applying this job? What kind of things you would be working in this job? And then it's about how you linking yourself to the job itself. Questions like what qualities you think you would need in order to be able to succeed in this job.
Did you have any weird or unexpected questions, and how did you answer them?
I had an interview with Google, and they were asking me about Gmail. They were asking what if you think Gmail is going to charge you right now, and what kind of charging model you think would be suitable for the company to adopt. And I was like, what? Because if you're charging for Gmail, that means people are going to go somewhere else. They would not use you. So why would they charge? So somehow I did answer something like this, but of course this is not really well thought before answering. So what I could do better is to think of the company's perspective. And after thorough minds throwing and after the interview, I think that I really could have partly answered the question saying, oh, if Gmail is going to charge, we might be thinking of, okay, what's the storage per user that is having right now? And to think of getting a general idea of which markets are having a high usage on the emails storage, and to think of where is the feasible test market to first rolling this out. So this is somehow, because this question was so all of a sudden and I couldn't really react fast enough. So I think but at that point, I think that I really should have thought on Google's perspective instead of saying no. I think I could have at least asked for a pause and to ask them for a minute saying, oh, can I think a bit before I answer you, or ask them to ask another question first and then I'll get back to you later. So I think this is something that I could have said. So that's why I wouldn't have screwed it up. Yeah.
Is there a way you can prepare for these kinds of unexpected questions?
Somehow I think that Google question I've mentioned is somehow already related. So in scenarios like this, I think we could better study the competitors, study how and study the latest news and latest development of the company and what are they good at, and to think in the perspective of how they would sell their products, on how they would differentiate themselves from competitors. So this would really require a deep understanding on the industry itself. So not just to keep an eye on the company you're applying, and you really have to know the market share. Google does everything. You can always type the keyword market share of search engines, for etc. For example, you can type market share of different properties companies in Hong Kong. These results would pop up. Sometimes it may need you to pay, but all in all, it's still free information flowing all over the place from the internet. So yeah, all in all, it's always about doing industry research, not just your company and also their competitors.
Did you ask any questions at the end of the interview?
Yes, I asked about what kind of daily routines the job would engage, and what is the team structure, and how my role is operating in the team, and who would be my reporting manager, that kind of stuff. The advantages of asking these deep questions about the job is to show that you are very interested in it. Or even though if you found it, oh, maybe this is not the job that I'm interested, if you are asking it, at least you would know, oh, this industries operate like, oh, they have a manager, and then the reporting line, they do have an executive underneath, and then they would have an assistant underneath. So this is also a way to understand the industry itself. So I think always ask questions about the job itself would be good.
So when do you normally mention the big question, salary?
I would mention this at the end of the CV, and they didn't really ask me during the interview, not until the end. Somehow I do receive questions saying, oh, I think you're too expensive. I did encounter sometimes of saying this. When this difficult question comes to me, I would think that because I know that the market price is already this amount, and they don't think that I'm already qualified for this. So I would say to them saying that because this is what the current company is paying me for this kind of job already. So I really hope that I could stick with this kind of increment, or at least at the similar level amount that I can receive. So this is what I've answered to the company. But at the end, I didn't choose it because they still think that I'm too pricey. But then if you keep on interviewing different kinds of companies, that you would know if they really think that you're capable, they would give you that amount of money.
Did you contact the company after the interview?
Yes. Usually, because after the interviewer would give me their business cards, and based on the emails, I could send a thank you note to them, saying, acknowledging them for giving me this opportunity, because it's difficult because they already have a busy schedule, but they still take the time to see you. And I always learn something new from them. May it be on the industry side, or may it be like management style, or like team structure, that kind of stuff. So this is also to show the gratitude of, it's also once again a PR saying that you would take this opportunity seriously and want to get the job offer. Even though if you don't get the business card, you could still send the email to the HR to saying thank you for the opportunity.
How long did you wait before you sent the thank you email?
I would do it right after the interview. If I interview it during 5 to 6, I would send it out from 9 to 10. Be sure it's timely because they might be also interviewing other candidates. So timely responses is also very important.
How long do you usually wait for a company to get back to you?
For this, usually it's, I think the fastest offer that I've received is just right after the interview. Because I know that the company really likes people. So usually it's within a week. But if you are not getting the job, it would be forever no response. Yeah.
So if you haven't heard back from the company, how do you follow up?
I would also use email saying, hi, I really want to know about whether you have any feedbacks from the interview, after the interview, saying that some employers are good. They would tell you that, oh, maybe I've already found the candidate to fill up the position. After a week, if I don't really hear a response, I would send one. And then usually they do come back to me saying, oh, maybe we've already found a candidate. So I think it's better for you to at least wait for a week before sending it, because you don't want really to chase the HR, the process going on, because really depends on company size, because small companies, they don't really have an HR. Maybe you could send it earlier, but for big companies, they usually need to deal with the HR. I would wait for a week to send out the email to follow up.
If you could go back to redo an interview, what would you do differently?
I would really want to mention the Google interview I have. Somehow, I don't think that I'm 100% prepared for it, because at that time, it was already 2 years ago and I was still fresh at that moment. I would really want to get better preparations, like understand the company's products, because they do ask me more different kinds of products that I haven't engaged myself into it. And then I was like, no idea what that is. And that is also one of the reasons I failed the interview. So again, it's back to the basic thing, is to understand the company and understand the competitors. And to add on is about the way thinking of the question is weird. There's always a reason why that question is asked. So don't deny it when you first heard about the question. And I think I've already said that, is to say, could you carry on with the next question first, and then in the meantime, I'll think of the answer for you. So this is one of the ways to buy yourself more time and to keep on thinking of solutions before you answer the questions from the company.
Have you ever done an online or Skype interview?
I had an interview with Google, and that was, I go into Google office, and then they had a room with video cameras, that kind of stuff, and they set up a Google Hangout interview. This is quite interesting for me because I don't know how to use Google Hangout before, and it's somehow not really different in the sense because they do have a video camera to film you all the time, but it's quite difficult to sense how the interviewer feels you, and don't really know, because it's all about human interaction. If you always want to see how the interviewer thinks about you. So I think it's quite difficult to know how his response towards my answers. So I don't really like doing video interviews. If I could, I would really want to conduct a face-to-face interview instead.
Is an online interview any different from a face-to-face interview?
There are not too many differences between offline and online interviews, because they do ask you similar questions such as what do you think of the job and how you would fit yourself into it. So it's always about how you understand the job requirements and how you can persuade the job interviewer to give you the offer.
Do you have any tips for online interviews?
I think somehow I cannot specifically say it would be some special tips for doing an online interview, but back to basic is to understand the company, understand the requirements. Communication-wise, the communication channel is just the other side of the story, but you have to understand it's always content that matters.
Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.